Hey guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Honest as Hell, a Men of Metal podcast. I'm Kip Brooks, your host, and we're doing another solo one. So, a question that's come up quite a bit uh, throughout my whole journey is like, what's all this mindset stuff? What's the hypnosis stuff, NLP, all that stuff, and what in the world is that in relation to dance? Like, what's that got to do with dance? Well, man, everything. Um, it um, shoot, it helped me just yesterday. I took on a dent that I had no interest in fixing, and um, it was a mess, and it was beat me up quite a bit. I only took it on because it was a guy I've known for a while, and just I wanted to help him out, and knowing I didn't want to do the thing, and um, but it keeps me focused. It gets me through the stuff I don't want to do, or not enjoying, or that it's hard, or whatever. And also keeps me in touch with the whole reason I'm there anyway. You know, uh, I was in this um, before I had kids, and then when kids came in, like during that time of still trying to get it going, and then it finally was going, and I'm on the road, and I've got this kid at home, and I want to be there, and I want to be a better parent than what I grew up with, and all these things, right? And I want to be the greatest parent ever, and but at the same time, I know I can't afford to take my foot off the gas to go home because I wasn't out of the hole yet, and all of that. And there were just different milestones from my son's childhood that they would come up, and I'm on the road, and and that would take me out. um, and my oldest son, I heard him learn how to speak over the phone, and I remember this day, the first time his mom called me, and she never called me during work hours. That was a rule and a boundary we had. It was like, from this point to this point, I'm in go mode. Outside of that, if I'm working, you can still call me if need to, whatever. But understand I might be working. Anyway, we had all these different just kind of rules, and I was way too strict on them. But it's like I was mentally, I didn't have the strength to like stay in and stay focused, and then, unless I did stay in and stay focused, like if I let that get interrupted by something, it would take me out. It messed with me. I was still building my mental strength in, just starting to really, a lot of ways. And yeah, she called me one time right in the middle of the day. It was an odd time, so automatically I think it's emergency, something's up. And she's like, I'm sorry I didn't want to call you, but she's like, Jaden was very adamant about it. And I was like, adamant about it? Like, what? I was like, adamant. She's like, he walked up to me, handed me the phone, and said, call daddy, I want to talk. And I was just floored that he could put that sentence together in any level. And I get on the phone with it, and he just starts spitting out random words that his whole vocabulary came out in no particular order. It was like purple, giraffe, air, water, chair, biscuit, things like that, just random words. But he just wanted to share with me all the words he had learned since we last talked. And I was like, the coolest phone call I've ever gotten in my life. You might hear a little emotion in me right there. But also the most painful phone call I think I've ever had. Because I was like, man, I would love to be there. I would love to be there for that. And I had to go for like 20 minutes and just sit by myself. And I happened to be on the hardest deal I've ever worked. Just we were being it was not a good deal. And yeah, it's just there were so many reasons not to be on the deal. Um, there was scams. The shop we were working in got closed down because of their way of doing business, and not they treated the customers and the insurance companies the way they treated us as vendors, and they don't like to pay. Um, it was a rough deal for all of us. Luckily, we were being like triple brokered, and one of those brokers was actually paying everybody. Um, so I did get paid the very little we actually made because we're being triple brokered. But um, yeah, it was just a tough deal. And I was actually at the end of it, I was going to be going home soon because we had a hailstorm about an hour away from home, and I'd already been called for it. I was just waiting on someone to come relieve me on this deal. So I didn't leave anybody hanging. And that still, it was just, I was so exhausted and everything else. And then feeling like I just missed out on some key parts, and it took me out for a little bit. And it took me some time to like get back on track. And then also like the person I was, one of the people there on the deal were just like, they didn't get it. They didn't have kids. And they're just like, what are you bothered by, man? Just get back. Like it's, it's a phone conversation. You got to be there. You got to be a part of it. And there was some truth to that. Like they were, that is part of life. Like, that's a beautiful thing about the technology we have now is we can be connected in a different way. If that would have been um, 10 years before that or 20 years before that, I wouldn't have had a phone. So I would have just missed it completely if I was on the road, right? Um, and my dad was a truck driver when I was young, so he missed out on so much stuff that he just never got to hear about until he got home. Um, but yeah, it rocked me the same. But I had a weaker mindset. I had toughed it out to get to a level of dense, but I still hadn't brought that grit and durability into other areas of my life. I kept it very compartmentalized. And I've been on so many deals. I remember a deal in, I think it was Greeley, Colorado, somewhere between there and Fort Collins area. I remember being on a deal and we were getting beat down. The same broker we were working for had some guys over at like the Toyota dealer and like three other dealers in town, Volkswagen, Nissan, a couple others, and we were getting beat up. But then there were guys coming there and I'm like, man, be glad you're not a Toyota deal. Whew, that's even worse. It's like they're getting the same numbers as us and it's almost 3 times in damage. And you hear all this, and of course, dent guys inflate stuff, and you don't know who's the BSer of whatever group. So finally, I remember we hopped in a car, the guy I was tagging with on that deal, and it's like, let's go over there and see. Like, is it how? Like, these are hit cars. Like, I know cars can be beat up worse than this, but the numbers we had heard they're getting were actually sounded pretty decent on some of the stuff. So we rode over there because it's like, if they're hitting anything like this, but they're getting paid more, we'll just switch deals. And we went over there, and as soon as we pulled, before we even pulled in the parking lot, we pulled into the center lane, and it's 2 lanes of traffic between us and there. And it's like, yeah, no, we don't want to be there. But we pulled through the parking lot just to check it out anyway. And I remember rails were hit so hard, it made the car look like it had rolled over because they were just beat flat. And I remember seeing this black Toyota Camry, and there's a guy over there. Somebody told me he's like a 12-year tech. I don't know. To this day, I don't know who he is. Never met him again. Didn't even meet him that day. I was out of respect. I didn't meet him that day. If I saw him out on the road, if I was in the same situation now, I'd know how to handle it. I'd go over. But at that time, I couldn't. I think I'd have done what he was doing and then some. He was sitting there just working on this car. And all of a sudden, we hear somebody just crying and like yelling out. And he's like, I can't do this. I'm done, man. I can't do it. And he like collapses to the floor and just starts sobbing right there in the middle of the shop. There's like 10 other dent guys around. He's right outside the showroom, only like 30 feet away from the showroom in this little miniature hangar open face garage thing they had. And I didn't laugh at him. There were some guys around, like staring at him, a couple maybe making fun, but most of the guys there seemed to understand because it's like, I was scared when I saw that work. The damage they were doing at that point, I was like, man, our deal's not so bad. So we went back over. I will say I still got out of town within a week of that because I got an offer elsewhere that turned out to be really good for me. Harder damage, but it was a great deal for me to be on. Really up my game, and the numbers were fair. Um, but that stuff, like, and like I say, there were a couple people I heard more online that had heard about it. There were guys kind of making fun of that or making fun of stuff like that. I've never laughed at somebody like that. Um, I've seen that happen a lot. I've seen it happen overseas a little bit, or heard of it over there, but I've seen it in the States. When we're 1,000 miles away from home, you don't know what every man's got going on. You don't know what you got going on. It can mess with you. Um, you're out in the middle of some town you never heard of. You're 1,500 miles away from home. There's hard damage. The numbers aren't right. Like, it's just a grind to get work. People at the body shop hate you. Like, I've been in deals. I kind of brought this story up with Gene Fetty on Radio Row at the expo. I was on a deal that, like, I'm unpacking my stuff and setting it up, and then like putting my cases back. I'd already set up my cart, and I'm putting my cases back in my truck, and then I'm moving to go park out of the way where I was told to park. And it happened to be I'm setting up when guys are coming and going for lunch, and they had me in a section of the shop where it was just storage, and they'd move some stuff out for me. So I was out of the way. Like, no one ever walked through there. It was its own little thing. To go there, you had to go out of your way. And someone had smashed my light. This is back in the days of fluorescent bulbs. We didn't have LEDs then. They weren't a thing. But a body man walked through and smashed my light. Just make a point. He made it kind of obvious when I was pulling in. He made it obvious for a while that he didn't want me there. Nothing to do with me. He didn't want dent guys. He's just one of those always stealing our work, stealing whatever his story was. I worked that shop multiple times. I worked that shop. It's not far from my house. It's actually about 45 minutes away. And yeah, that stunt, I carried that episode right there. That scenario made me always have multiple bulbs with me at all times. I always had at least, I think, 3 or 4, but usually even more than that. I would, and then, but I'm trying to pack them away in a car and make sure they don't get damaged and all that. It was a pain. But I noticed, like, man, I showed up to the wrong deal, and some dude's going to keep bashing my lights. It's like, I can't stop to run up to the, Home Depot or something to grab a bulb every single time it happens. Because it actually happened twice there in 24 hours. I think it was 24, 30 hours, something like that. And anybody remembers the bulb lights, it's like even just taking them in and out, like being gentle with them, broke the tabs to where the bulb wouldn't stay in there on its own. So if somebody was actually hitting it, they got damaged really easy. They were soft. They were sissy lights. But they weren't made to beat up, right? They were made to do one thing. That was my favorite part about LEDs, is at least they were a little more durable. If somebody went and hit them or knocked them over, they tend to work. So being in those situations taught me, so, okay, I've got to get tougher mentally, be able to deal with that stuff. I was on a deal where it was all combo guys, and one dude would intentionally come over and spray primer towards us and then laugh about it. And we were told, if my body guy's got a big enough problem with you that it's going to cause you to get involved and it's going to be a problem, well, you're gone, because he's my full-time guy. I don't care if he's right or wrong. He's making money for the shop year round. You're here temporarily. And he's like, I'm not going to lose a full-time guy who's a good body tech over a dent guy. He's like, I turned 10 dent guys down while you were working a day, so you're a dime a dozen. And so I've been in shops like that. It's like, okay, well, these are far and few in between, we'll say. But in my early days, I seem to run into it actually quite a bit. Now PDR is accepted, right? And shoot, just about every shop you go to, there's at least one guy in the shop that has his own dent tools and he's hoping to learn. He's probably going to come pick your brain about it and want to come on the road with you. Um, I get that at every shop now. But in my first 3 years, 4 years, I ran into, it was like going in behind enemy lines. But we kind of knew that going in. The guy that trained me, like he prepped me for that. But I also knew I had seen the first dent guy the dent guy that kind of talked me into getting in this business, Mike. I'd seen him in plenty of shops and not have an issue. So it's like, okay, I know that at some point I can win people over. And it's like, but I've still got to be mentally in a headspace where I can handle it when drama comes up and not let it shake me. Because I know, luckily the one where the guy that was spraying primer, like the guy I was tagging with was a strong enough dent guy. It's like they could try to nitpick our work, but he would come behind me if I need him to, and he made sure nobody could nitpick our work because he was a really solid tech. And it's like, until I get to that point, it's like, well, to even get there, I've mentally got to be able to be there and believe I'm that. And then also when things come up from home, it's like, I've got to be able to compartmentalize. I've got to be able to set myself in a mental space where I can handle that. I know, there's stuff going on outside of this world, but right now in this bay, this is all that exists, is me and this panel that I'm working on. And Kobe Bryant, that's how he came up with the Black Mamba persona. And Jordan, I think, was just always Jordan. It didn't matter what was going on. Stories I read about him, he was just always like that. But it's like having something that triggers you in a zone. And as I kept studying the mind and human behavior and just learning how to deal with the stuff that was causing the leaks in my mental ship, and then how to correct them and then strengthen them and all of that, it's like it led down a whole lot of rabbit holes through certifications in neuroscience, neurolinguistics, hypnosis, all these different areas. And then figuring out, okay, how do I apply it to this world? Because nobody teaches it for this world. They teach it for where it's most common at, and then it's up to you to figure it out the rest of the way. And just through going through the work and studying it, learning it, helped a whole lot. But then I started learning how to really apply it to what I specifically wanted, and then be able to get to a point where, okay, I've got to take a personal phone call. This is going on, handle that, and then come back. And it's like, okay, that's going to be solved. I've got a solution there. Now I've got to get back in work zone and pick it up like nothing ever happened and go through. And it's like, I've still got to be accountable here. Got a responsibility. And based on what's going on. If it's a real emergency, of course, go home, but also be able to step out of the emotional part of it and make a solution or come up with a solution from a logical viewpoint, instead of, the world's going to end. My kid's going to grow up in therapy because I'm not there, whatever it was, or the gentleman I saw in Colorado that it's like, I don't know what all weight that dude is carrying. The damage there was enough to beat you down mentally. I'm sure our damage was, and like I say, ours was about half of his, I think. But I don't know where, I feel like I remember hearing he was from, somewhere in Oklahoma or Arkansas. So he's far away from home. I don't know his family life. I don't know any of that. But it's there's all these things that we tend to ignore. And guys get out on the road. I've seen it so many times that guys that did well on a route or coming up in the business, and they're good tech, and then they get the idea to go chase storms, and they come out and we think that it's, oh, I can fix a dent. I've done some hail damage. I'm not super fast at it yet, but I'm efficient. I can do it. Or maybe they were really efficient at it, whatever. Maybe they came from a hail zone area and they are very familiar with hail, like somewhere in Texas or Oklahoma, and they're like, I just want to chase some storms, work some other areas, like whatever it is. Um, and we think that the dent piece is the only part of it, right? Like the dent work part, the getting work, the being able to fix the damage, all of that, and then get out away from home, and all of a sudden the blind spots start showing up, and it's like, uh, how's your relationship? What, like, even if your relationship is 100% solid, um, starting to chase storms when you never have before can really beat up that relationship. So you've got to have certain conversations before you leave. And we'll get more into a lot of that point. Actually, I want to bring Dano on for that specifically because he is a master at knowing, being able to fill guys in on what the blind spots are coming up. And he learned it the hard way, but he put into work, he and his spouse, and they've created a magical family and relationship. And so we'll go in depth when he comes on. But if you go out on the road and relationships falling apart at home and getting worn out, so that's going to start impacting you on the road, which is then going to start impacting your relationship and back and forth. And if the relationship's good, it's like something else. If there's just stuff coming up at home, it starts messing with you, not being able to be there to help out or take care of it if you're not mentally ready for that, if there's not some kind of game plan set in. And like I say, sometimes the distance messes with people. Sometimes just people start getting homesick. I know people that go on a vacation for a week and they're homesick. Like, that's never happened to me. I feel like the dent business was almost made for me on the hail damage side. I have no problem being gone all year long, and if I'm able to bring my kids out or I zip home to see them for a bit, being homesick, that's never been a thing. Not knowing where I'm going to work next week doesn't bother me. I love the chase part of it. I love the adventure part. I love the unknown. I love the exploration, the town to town, and the idea of I could leave March 1st and not see the inside of my house again until mid-November. I have no problem with that. I've never fully felt home anywhere, but yet I can make anywhere feel like home. If that makes any sense to you at all. That's a deep philosophical rabbit hole, but yeah, that is some of the stuff you need to really kind of think about before you go out. It's like, it's not just getting work, it's not just confirming damage, it's not just can you fix the damage. It's you're taking yourself out of your life. It's kind of like that Jimmy Stewart movie, whatever it was, the big Christmas movie that everybody talks about. It's a Wonderful Life. It's kind of like that scene. It's like you're taking yourself out of your life, but your life still goes on. It's just you're not hands-on. You're trying to handle it from afar. What is everything that can come up with that? What are you going to do to handle that? Like, how much is that going to impact and bother you? My wife and I have a very solid relationship, but when she's locked down here and I'm working in Minnesota for too long, it gets challenging. It's draining. If you're not proactive on the relationship, on the things that are going on, so you've got to support each other from a different level. You have to support yourself through it. She has to support herself, but also you still got to find a way to be there and connect. And whether it's the day-to-day stuff, but also just the family stuff and stuff with the relationship. And it gets even more vital that you really set up a space for that. So then there's family members, friends, relatives, like all these people, and you start having to figure out what order they're in. I got so much drama in the past from people saying, "You never around to hang out with us, too good for us." This thing, I'm 2,000 miles away from home, like working. I said, "Well, you were home for a weekend like 3 months ago." I have 2 kids. I got a family. Like, sorry, I can't just hang out with everybody I ever met. Like, if I've only got 2 days and I've been on the road 3 months, like, the family's getting 100%. Um, that's how it is. And I've lost plenty of friendships over this business, especially in the first several years where I didn't understand how to work it. I didn't have the capacity. And um, so that is something that I've seen take a lot of guys out, is that just not thinking about how being on the road is going to impact their old life or their off-season life. And you've got to figure out the balance between the two. You got to figure out how to work that. It's going to show you a whole lot of things. And if the problems that are going to arise from that, the uncomfortable conversations, the extra work of preparing before you go on the road, and the extra stuff you got to do to catch up when you get back, that's going to be a problem. You really need to think about heading out on the road, because if that stuff is causing mental friction while you're on the road, you're not going to have a great season. You're not going to have a good experience. So put that in your mind. Like, it's too easy to get on the road and try to block that stuff out by just working a bunch more hours, and that was my method of handling it. But then the stuff just sits there and percolates. So you have to handle it different, and it is exhausting sometimes. It adds a whole different level of pressure. This industry is challenging enough for single guys, but it is 10 times easier for single guys. But again, it depends on what the home life is. I know some single guys on the road that are also taking care of a family member, their kids. Everybody's got their story. Everybody's got a thing. So you've got to think about, this is what my day is. Here's the stuff I'm involved in throughout the week. Now I'm not going to be here. How does that stuff, what of that can wait until October, November, whenever I choose to end my season? And what needs to be handled? How can it be handled to continue to go on? What stuff can I put on rotation somehow? How can I keep it kind of automated? Who can I get to step in? Who can I lean on? Who do I need to pay? Who do I need to outsource this to? All of those things. And anyone you do have to outsource, like lawn or any of that you're paying someone for, remember that's also going to be in the back of your mind of additional money you need to make, and it's areas you need to think about, because you can't just be gone the whole hell season, even if it's the greatest season ever, when you've got people at home counting on you. It's gonna damage some things. So again, look at that, take a step back and think about it seriously, because it's so much better to handle it and come up with a game plan and adjust the game plan as you work, instead of just, let me get out on the road and we'll just figure it out as we go. Don't do that at all. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your family or anyone else. And it's not fair to the team you're working on, because you're going to run into some troubles, and it's going to mess you up on the road, and therefore mess up work volume and flow and all of that. So anyway, we're going to stop this episode right there, and we'll catch up and continue on in the next one.